The first words I heard when I stepped through the front door of my parents' house weren't hello or welcome. They were my sister's voice, drifting over the laughter and clinking glasses like a perfectly timed dagger. She's probably late because she couldn't afford the gas. I froze, hands still on the doorknob, the warmth of the California sun disappearing behind me like a lie I'd told myself. One where family still meant something. I took a breath, smoothed the skirt of my navy blue wrap dress, and stepped inside. "Jordan, sweetheart, you made it!" My mom, Marianne, floated toward me, wrapped in chiffon and tension, her eyes darting nervously to the guests. "Sloane's been asking about you." Of course she had. "Traffic on Highway 1 was a nightmare," I said, kissing my mother's cheek. "Sorry I'm late." "When isn't she late?" Sloane's voice rang out again, louder this time. She was standing by the granite-topped bar, champagne flute in hand, all white silk and designer heels, as if she were hosting a gala and not a family reunion. I smiled and waved at the cousins who avoided my gaze, then made my way toward the drinks table. "You look practical," Sloane said as she approached, her eyes scanning my dress like it offended her aesthetic. "Still working at that hospital." "Still saving lives," I replied evenly, reaching for a glass of sparkling water. "Oh, that's sweet," she said, voice syrupy. "Bryce and I just closed on our 5th investment property. You should think about your future, Jordan. Stability isn't sexy, you know." Before I could reply, our father, Richard, clapped his hands. "All right, everyone, let's gather in the sunroom. Sloane has an announcement." I sighed quietly, following the family into the expansive room bathed in golden light. My cousin Noah gave me a sympathetic shrug as he passed. He knew what was coming. We all did. Sloane always had announcements. She stood in front of the fireplace, glass raised. "Bryce and I have found our dream home," she said. "A stunning vacation property in Carmel Highlands. 6 bedrooms, infinity pool, panoramic ocean views. It's everything we've ever wanted." She looked right at me. Of course, not everyone is in a place to invest in something like that. "Jordan, didn't you mention something about medical debt last month?" The room went silent. I blinked. "I never said that." "Oh, I just assumed," she said innocently. "I mean, I saw those collection letters in your mailbox. No shame in it, really. We can't all be successful." Heat rushed to my face. My father avoided my eyes. My mother's smile faltered. I opened my mouth to speak, but then I closed it again. Something inside me shifted. Not rage, not pain, just clarity. I smiled, took a sip of my water, and said nothing. My silence wasn't weakness. It was precision. It was restraint. It was the final click of a long-laid trap falling into place. "Jordan," my mother whispered, searching my face. "Are you all right?" I nodded slowly. Sloane's right. Not everyone is meant for bigger things. I looked at her, dead in the eyes. Some of us are meant for smarter ones. Her smile twitched. "What does that mean?" "Oh, nothing," I said, my phone buzzing in my purse. "Just a reminder." I stepped onto the back deck and pulled it out. A message from Miranda Chen, my real estate agent. All papers signed. "Congratulations, Jordan. The Carmel house is officially yours." I glanced through the French doors into the sunroom where Sloane was still holding court, basking in her spotlight, smug and radiant. She had no idea, no clue that while she'd been posting filtered photos of beach views and dream house manifesting quotes, I'd been quietly watching, calculating, preparing. No idea that the house she was gushing about was no longer hers to dream about. I typed back, "Don't notify the seller she lost it just yet. Let's keep the new buyer private until I say otherwise." Another message came in. This one from Noah. She's on Instagram again, manifesting the Hamptons life. "You seeing this?" I clicked the link. There she was, posed in front of the iron gates of the house, captioned, "Manifest it. Believe it. Own it." The irony nearly made me laugh out loud. I slipped my phone back into my purse and leaned on the railing, letting the ocean air wash over me. The sound of clinking glasses and shallow laughter floated through the open windows, but I didn't go back inside. I didn't need to. Not yet. There would be time for confrontation later. Right now, I savored the silence, the prelude, the calm before the storm, because storms are only satisfying if the air goes still first. Sometimes, revenge doesn't need a fight. Sometimes it just needs the right address. "You're actually insane," Elliot said, setting down his coffee with a laugh that turned a few heads in the hospital cafeteria. Like, certifiably, textbook-level insane, and I love it. I grinned as I slid my phone across the table toward him. 6 bedrooms, private beach, infinity pool. The exact house Sloane's been flaunting for months on social media. And now, it's mine. Elliot leaned in, swiping through the photos. "Wait, this is the house? The Carmel Highlands one." "The very one," I said, sipping my tea. "She doesn't know. The agent's keeping it under wraps at my request." He shook his head. "You bought your sister's dream house out from under her, while she was bragging about affording it." "She never made an offer," I said calmly. "She just assumed no one else could." I pulled up another file on my phone, the investment portfolio that had taken me 7 years to build. Every night shift, every holiday worked, every time Sloane made fun of my hospital scrubs or my discount sneakers. All of it went straight into long-term assets. I'd stayed quiet, let her talk, let her shine, let her mock me at every family dinner. "You remember Christmas 4 years ago?" I asked. She told the whole table nursing was a backup career for people who couldn't handle med school. Elliot winced. "Yeah, I almost threw a fork at her." "That night, I opened a Roth IRA," I said. "Then I started researching dividend stocks, real estate syndicates, alternative markets. And I kept doing it every time she humiliated me." My phone buzzed. A message from Noah. "She's posting again. Another manifestation post. This one says keys coming soon." Elliot laughed, nearly choking. "She really thinks it's a done deal." "Of course she does," I said. "That's the thing about Sloane. She never double-checks the path. She just assumes she owns it because she looked good walking on it." Elliot took a long sip of his coffee and shook his head. "You've been planning this for years, haven't you?" "Not at first," I said. "At first, I just wanted a way out. A better future. But every time she tried to make me feel small, it lit something up in me. Something sharper." He leaned back. "What are you going to do when she finds out?" "I'm going to let her announce it first," I said. "Let her gather everyone. Make it a spectacle. Then, I'll correct the record." Elliot stared at me for a long beat. "You're terrifying," he finally said. "And I'm so proud of you." I smiled, but my hands were a little shaky as I tucked my phone back into my coat pocket. The adrenaline hadn't stopped since I'd signed the final documents. I was still waiting for the moment it would all feel real. The next 12 hours passed in a blur of trauma cases, surgical assists, and endless paperwork. When I finally arrived at Elliot's apartment, I collapsed onto the couch, still in my scrubs. He handed me a glass of wine. "Look what came in the mail." I took the envelope and opened it slowly. Inside was a letterhead from Pacific Haven Developments, the resort group buying up coastal properties in Carmel Highlands. "They want the house." "Not just want," he said. "They're offering you triple what you paid." I stared at the number. It was enough to pay off every debt, invest even more, and still live comfortably. But I didn't smile. "I'm not selling." "You sure?" Elliot asked gently. "This is a life-changing offer." "I didn't buy that house for money," I said. "I bought it to take something back." I stood and walked to the window, looking out at the distant waves under the moonlight. "Do you know what my dad said when I graduated top of my class?" "What?" Elliot asked. He said, "That's nice, but Sloane just made junior partner at her firm." I laughed bitterly. I remember standing there, holding my diploma, thinking, even this isn't enough. Elliot joined me at the window. "You've always been enough," he said. "They were just too blind to see it." Another message popped up on my phone. "Family dinner at Sloane's this weekend. She says she has big news. You're coming, right?" I replied, "Wouldn't miss it." Elliot grinned. "Please tell me you're going to drop the bomb in person." "No bombs," I said. "Just clarity, precision, like a scalpel, not a grenade." I opened my banking app and showed him the totals. Elliot let out a low whistle. "No one ever asked how you could afford to live alone on a nurse's salary, did they?" "Nope. They just assumed I was struggling. Because that's the story Sloane told them." "You know what the best part is?" I added, "Everything I know about real estate, I learned from her." Elliot raised his glass. "To poetic justice." I clinked mine against his, but inside, something deeper stirred. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about legacy, about rewriting what family success looked like, about showing them that quiet doesn't mean weak, and humble doesn't mean forgettable. The truth was, I'd never wanted the spotlight. I just didn't want to be left in the dark. The sky over Monterey was painted in streaks of apricot and lavender as I pulled into Sloane's driveway that Saturday evening. Her McMansion was glowing, every window lit, every outdoor lantern on, as if she were trying to illuminate her own importance. I stepped out of my car just as Noah arrived, climbing out of his truck in rolled sleeves and a tie that was already half undone. "Perfect timing," he said, falling into step beside me. "You ready for whatever this is?" "More ready than she is," I muttered, hand clutching my purse, inside of which was a manila envelope I hadn't let out of my sight for 2 days. Inside, everything was pristine, all chrome and marble and careful staging. Family portraits lined the hallway, all featuring Sloane at center stage. No one ever framed silence, so of course I was nowhere in sight. "Jordan." Bryce greeted me at the door, offering a polite smile. "Sloane's in the kitchen, been at it all day." "She cooks now," Noah whispered behind me. "She orders in and pretends," I whispered back. "Watch the trash can, always a giveaway." Sure enough, I glimpsed upscale takeout containers hastily shoved beneath the sink and the smell of garlic and lemon that didn't match the visible dishes. Sloane turned as I entered, her smile tight, eyes sharp. "Oh, good. You came." "Wouldn't miss it," I said lightly, accepting a glass of white wine from Bryce. "You're just in time," she said, straightening a platter of lobster puffs from the bistro 2 blocks away. "I was telling Mom about our amazing news. It's life-changing." "Sounds like you've been doing a lot of changing lately," I said. Her eyes narrowed just slightly. "Unlike some people, I believe in advancement." My mother gave me an apologetic glance, but said nothing. The room hummed with polite tension. The doorbell rang again. My father had arrived, along with Elliot, who I'd invited as my quiet anchor. Sloane blinked at his presence. "Still hanging around hospital people?" she asked. "Still pretending you cook?" I replied, nodding toward the takeout trash. Her expression flickered, but before she could respond, Bryce called everyone into the dining room. "Before we eat," Sloane began, standing at the head of the table, "I have amazing news to share." She gripped Bryce's hand dramatically. "As you all know, we've been exploring a new property, one that really captures the next stage of our success." She paused for effect. I could see my parents' eyes shining, waiting for their golden child's next triumph. After exclusive negotiations and a lot of hard work, we're absolutely thrilled to announce, "Honey." Bryce interrupted, glancing at his phone. "I just got an email from our agent." "Not now," she hissed under her breath, then raised her voice again. "As I was saying, Sloane," Bryce said louder. "The house sold. To someone else." The room went still. "What?" Sloane's voice cracked like ice. "That's impossible. Check again." "It sold 2 days ago. Agent says the new owners asked to remain anonymous." I took a long sip of wine, watching her face. The exact moment it began to crumble, it was almost art. No, she said, shaking her head. We had an agreement. They were holding it for us. We told everyone. My father tried to salvage the moment. There'll be other properties, sweetheart. No, she said louder this time. That was our house. My house. I told everyone. I already. She stopped mid-sentence and turned to me. Why aren't you more upset? I tilted my head. Why would I be? Because, she sputtered. Because you're supposed to be happy for me. Jealous, even. Noah nearly choked on his drink. Bryce leaned forward, cautiously. Maybe we should all take a minute. No. Sloane snapped. This was supposed to be perfect. I was going to show everyone. Show everyone what? I asked, voice soft. That you win again. That you're better than me. She caught herself, but it was too late. My parents exchanged an uncomfortable glance. You know what's interesting? I said, setting my glass down. Success isn't always about who shouts the loudest. What is that supposed to mean? It means, I pulled out my phone, unlocked it, and slid it across the table. Sometimes the quiet ones surprise you. Sloane's face twisted in confusion as she picked up the phone. Her eyes scanned the photos, interior shots of her dream home, aerial views of the backyard and pool. And then the name on the deed. This is a joke, she whispered. The closing papers arrived yesterday, I said, reaching into my purse and pulling out the envelope. Would you like to see them? The room erupted. My father was asking questions. My mother had her hands over her mouth. Bryce looked like someone had slapped him with a wet contract. But all I saw was her face, the disbelief, the unraveling. How, she finally croaked. You're a nurse. You take the bus. A nurse who knows how to invest, I replied. Every time you mocked my job, I picked up another shift. Every time you bragged about your bonuses, I quietly met with a financial advisor. But your apartment is in one of the fastest growing neighborhoods in Monterey, tripled in value. And I take the bus because parking at the hospital costs a fortune. Elliot cleared his throat. She's also one of the top earners in her department, published in journals. She's a beast. Enough, Sloane barked, spinning toward Bryce. Call our lawyer. There must be a way to contest this. Bryce shifted uncomfortably. We never made an offer, Sloane. We have no legal grounds. Then make some, she shouted. This is my house. No, I said, voice like stone. It's mine. And the real reason you're angry is because you never thought I could be competition. Silence fell again. My father stared at his untouched plate. My mother was close to tears. Competition. Sloane scoffed, but it sounded hollow now. This isn't about that. Isn't it? I stood slowly. Let's talk about dreams. Like my nursing ceremony, where you showed up late, talked through my speech, and hijacked dinner to announce your new license. Or when I got promoted and you told everyone I was playing doctor. Or last month, when you told the entire family I was drowning in debt. That was different. I was trying to help. By lying. Elliot cut in. By spreading rumors. Stay out of this. Sloane snapped. He is family, I said. He supported me more than you ever did. Bryce suddenly stood. Sloane, we need to talk. Now. About what? She asked, blinking. About the credit cards. The loan applications I found with my forged signature. Her face went pale. Not now, yes. Now. He turned to the room. I'm sorry. We need a minute. They disappeared into the kitchen, but the shouting echoed through the walls. My mother turned toward the table, trying to smile. Shall we serve the food? Actually, I said, collecting my purse and the envelope. I should go. I have contractors meeting me at my house tomorrow to discuss renovations. My father's voice stopped me as I reached the door. Jordan, wait. I paused. I'm sorry. We should have paid more attention to your achievements, to the fact I was building something while Sloane was just talking about it. He nodded, quietly, brokenly, from the kitchen. Sloane's voice rose again. I was going to pay it back. You don't understand. $60,000, Sloane. Bryce shouted. When were you going to tell me? Noah whistled low under his breath. Elliot stood and picked up his coat. That's our cue. We stepped into the cool evening air, the noise from inside still echoing. That, Noah said, catching up beside me, was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. It's not over, I replied, unlocking my car. This was just the beginning. 3 days later, I met Bryce at a small cafe across from the hospital. He looked like he hadn't slept. His tie was crooked, his suit wrinkled, and the bags under his eyes spoke louder than his voice ever could. Thanks for coming, he said as I sat down. I know things are messy right now. I said nothing, just waited. He pulled a folder from his briefcase and slid it across the table. You need to see these before you make any final decisions about the house. Inside were copies of credit card statements, personal loan applications, and bank overdrafts, pages and pages, all with Sloane's name and Bryce's forged signature. She's drowning, he said quietly. Designer clothes, leased cars, the whole image, it's all built on debt. She was counting on that house to bail her out. How? I asked, though I already knew. She planned to use it as collateral, he confirmed. A quick appraisal, a private lender, fast cash to pay off everything before it exploded. I closed the folder slowly. And she never told you? I didn't even know until I found the second credit card under my name. I confronted her 2 nights ago. She cried, denied everything, then finally admitted it when I showed her the statements. He rubbed his face with both hands. And now, she's pulling your parents into it. My stomach turned. What do you mean? They're talking about taking out a second mortgage on their home to give her a fresh start. I stared at him. They're going to risk their retirement to cover for her lies? He nodded grimly. They think she's finally hit rock bottom, that this is her wake-up call. My phone buzzed. A message from Noah. Family emergency meeting at your parents' house. Sloane's idea. You coming? I showed the text to Bryce. She doesn't know I'm here, he said. But Jordan, be careful. She's desperate now. That's when people do the ugliest things. I nodded, slipped the folder into my bag, and stood. Thanks for the warning. He touched my arm as I turned to leave. Just don't let her make you the villain in her tragedy. I paused. She already did. I just stopped playing the part. That evening, I pulled up to my childhood home, the porch lights glowing like they used to when I came home from college. Only now, the warmth was manufactured, the welcome carefully staged. Inside, the entire family was gathered in the living room, just like old times, except no one was smiling. Sloane sat on the couch, dressed modestly in soft gray, her hair pulled back, her eyes puffy. My mother rushed over the moment I walked in. Thank God you came. What is this? I asked calmly, scanning the room. It's about family, my father said. About making things right. Sloane stood slowly, her hands folded in front of her like a child waiting to confess. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she began, about mistakes, consequences, and I realized I've hurt people, especially you, Jordan. Noah, seated in the corner, caught my eye and gave the slightest shake of his head. I knew what he was thinking. It was a show, a setup, and I wasn't playing along. I've been terrible to you, Sloane continued. Cruel, competitive, dismissive, and now I'm paying for it. But it's not just me suffering. Mom and Dad, they're being dragged into it, and I don't want that. She turned to our parents. I'm so sorry. I want to fix this, starting with my sister. I didn't say anything. I let the silence settle, let her squirm. I know I don't deserve it, she added, but I'm asking for forgiveness. I waited a beat. Are you done? Her face faltered. Good, because now it's my turn. I turned to our parents. Did she tell you about the forged loan applications? My mother blanched. What? The maxed out credit cards? The plan to use the Carmel house to secure a private loan. Jordan, please, Sloane said, her voice trembling. This isn't the place, isn't it? I turned back to our father. You were going to mortgage your house. For her. But when I was working double shifts to stay afloat. Nothing. Not even a cosign. That's different, my mother said weakly. Why? I asked. Because I didn't cry loud enough? Because I didn't fake fragility? My father tried to interject, but I raised a hand. No, you need to hear this. You've enabled her for years. And now she expects me to bail her out too. Sloane stepped forward, eyes suddenly flaring. If you sell the beach house to the developers, I could. There it is, I said, laughing bitterly. The truth. My voice sharpened. This isn't about remorse. It's about leverage. You want the house. It could save all of us, she said. Pay off my debt. Help Mom and Dad keep their home. Your debt, I snapped. Not ours. And definitely not mine. I grabbed my purse. And that house, it's not for sale. Not to the developers. And definitely not to clean up your mess. Jordan, wait, my father called as I reached the door. I turned back slowly. You know what the difference is between me and Sloane? I asked. I learned from my mistakes. She just expects everyone else to fix hers. Then I walked out, the sound of her frantic protests muffled by the soft click of the front door behind me. In the car, I pulled out my phone and dialed Miranda. She answered on the second ring. Jordan. About that resort offer, I said. Let's talk. 2 weeks later, the sun dipped low over the horizon as the last car pulled into the gravel driveway of my beach house. Through the newly installed floor-to-ceiling windows, the sea shimmered like a sheet of glass, quiet and endless. They're here, Elliot said, adjusting the appetizer trays. Everyone, Noah confirmed, handing me a glass of champagne. Ready. I looked out toward the ocean, then back to the folder resting on my desk. Time to end this. One by one, my family stepped through the door, expressions mixed. Curiosity, anxiety, denial. My mother looked around with a practiced smile. Jordan, it's beautiful. The renovations turned out better than I expected, I said. Feels like a fresh start. Sloane entered last. She wasn't wearing designer anything, just a pale cardigan and jeans. Her hair was tied back, her eyes swollen from either crying or trying not to. Bryce hovered near the doorway, not quite beside her, not quite away. According to Noah, they still weren't living together. Well, my father said, clearing his throat. This is quite something. It is, I replied. But before we celebrate, there's something we need to discuss. Every head turned. I walked over to the desk, picked up the folder, and held it in both hands. This house has changed everything, not just for me, but for what this family could be. I began handing out copies. So I created a trust. A what? My mother asked. A family trust, I explained. The house will be its main asset. Ownership is being transferred, not to an individual, but to the Ellis Family Trust. Sloane's eyes snapped up. You're giving it away? Not exactly, I said. I'm reassigning control. With conditions. Bryce scanned the document quickly. Rotating usage schedule. Financial eligibility required. Usage is conditional. I continued. Any family member may stay here, but only if they can prove financial stability. No delinquent debt, no hidden liabilities, no legal baggage. Sloane's hand trembled slightly as she held the papers. That's not fair. It's more than fair, I said. It's accountability. There's also a scholarship clause, I added, for future generations of Ellis kids, specifically for nursing and medical education. The room was silent, the sound of waves outside filling the stillness. Why? Sloane finally asked, voice small. Because we're family, I said, and families should lift each other up, not use each other as stepping stones. Bryce looked up from his document. These counseling services, you're offering financial rehab. Yes, I said, paid by the trust, available to anyone who wants to get their finances in order. He looked directly at Sloane. That's your condition, isn't it? It's everyone's condition, I said. Equal access, equal expectations. But yes, if she completes the program, she gets access like anyone else. And our mortgage? My mother asked, voice shaking. That's still yours. But the trust has emergency provisions, with strict oversight and repayment schedules. We help. We don't enable. My father stood abruptly and walked to the window, staring out in silence. I didn't rush him. Eventually, he turned around, his voice hoarse. All these years, I thought I knew who you were. He shook his head. I was wrong. We both were, my mother added, her eyes brimming. Jordan, It's okay, I said quietly. You don't have to say it. Sloane was still staring at the paper, frozen. I don't deserve this. No, I agreed. You don't. But that's not the point. The point is what you choose to do next. She blinked. When does the program start? Monday, if you want it. She nodded once, a silent agreement hanging between us like a fragile thread. I pulled out one last document. Bryce, I said, this is for you. He took it cautiously, eyes widening as he read. This is the proof of the forged applications. The room held its breath. Sloane's shoulders stiffened, ready for impact. But Bryce didn't explode. Instead, he quietly tore the paper in half. Everyone deserves a second chance, he said, but only one. Sloane burst into tears. I raised my glass. Now, who's ready for a housewarming party? The room finally exhaled. People stood, clinked glasses, made small talk. My father stepped out onto the deck. My mother wandered into the kitchen. Noah handed out dessert plates. Jeremy caught me by the shoulder. You planned this, didn't you? He asked. The trust, the scholarship, all of it. Sometimes, I said, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's building something they never imagined you could. The autumn breeze rolled in from the sea as I sat on the deck of the beach house, flipping through the trust's first quarterly reports. The numbers were strong, stronger than I'd hoped. Investments were up. No emergency withdrawals. The counseling fund had already been used by 2 relatives. For once, the Ellis name was attached to something stable, something real. Need help with those? Sloane's voice came from behind me, softer than I'd ever heard it. She was holding 2 mugs of coffee, her nails unpainted, her sweatshirt plain. I nodded and accepted the mug. How was your session? Good, she said, settling into the chair beside me. Hard, but good. The counselor thinks I might be ready to move into a smaller apartment, something I can actually afford. I looked over at her, at the lack of makeup, the lack of armor. That's a big step. It's weird, honestly, she said, letting out a small laugh. Living within my means. Not impulse buying. I unsubscribed from all the luxury newsletters. Deleted the shopping apps. She glanced out toward the sea. Turns out I don't need $400 sunglasses to see clearly. The sliding door opened. Our parents stepped onto the deck, followed by Elliot and Noah. Jeremy carried a laptop under one arm. Ready for the first official meeting? He asked. You all settled on the holiday rotation schedule yet? Almost, my mother said, her voice lighter than I'd heard it in years. But your father insists on Thanksgiving week every year. Tradition, my father muttered. That's not tradition, Sloane said. That's turkey-based tyranny. We all laughed, genuinely this time. Elliot sat beside me as Jeremy set up the laptop. Before we start, my father said, clearing his throat. I have something to say. Everyone turned toward him. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. The bank approved our refinancing application, he said. But we're not taking the second mortgage. We decided against it. He looked directly at me. Jordan, you were right. We can't keep enabling destructive patterns. Not for anyone, including ourselves. Sloane nodded quietly, blinking back tears. Thank you, I said, my voice thick. My mother stepped forward with her own folder. All right, she said. Shall we discuss Christmas? As they debated schedules and grocery budgets, I noticed Bryce standing a little off to the side, watching Sloane. We're talking, she said quietly, catching my glance. Taking it slow. If we stick to the new budget, if we stay honest, we might be okay. And the shopping? I teased. Gone. Cold turkey. Jeremy called the meeting to order. First item, scholarship expansion proposal. Actually, I interrupted. There's something else first. I pulled out my phone and opened the email I'd received that morning. The resort company sent another offer. You all should hear this. The deck fell silent. My mother shifted in her seat. You're not selling, are you? No, I said. But look at the last paragraph. I read it aloud. In lieu of purchase, Pacific Haven Developments proposes a long-term partnership. The Ellis Trust retains full ownership while the resort develops and manages adjacent properties. The Ellis House will remain private but benefit from increased value and regional investment. Projected appreciation, 3x over 10 years. Bryce let out a low whistle. That's brilliant. You retain control, get the benefits, and set the terms. It's your decision, Sloane said. You earned this. No, I said, looking around the table. It's our decision. That's what the trust is for. My father raised his hand. I vote yes. For the future generations fund. One by one, hands went up. When it came to Sloane, she hesitated, then raised hers too. I used to think success meant having everything I wanted, she said. Now I know it means being worthy of what you have. Jeremy typed briskly. Vote recorded. Amendment will be added to the trust documents. Speaking of records, Elliot said, pulling something from his bag, show them. I unfolded the local newspaper and opened it to the healthcare section. There, printed beneath the headline, Emergency Response Revolutionized at Monterey General, was a photo of me and my trauma team. The article detailed our new triage protocol, a system I developed, one that cut response times by 30%. My little sister, Sloane said softly, but this time there was no sarcasm, no edge, just pride. Not so little anymore, my father added, squeezing my shoulder. No, I said, smiling. Not anymore. Jeremy looked up. Last item on the agenda, mission statement approval. I stood slowly. I have a suggestion. Everyone turned toward me. I cleared my throat. The Ellis Family Trust exists not to create wealth, but to create value. Not to enable, but to empower. Not to divide, but to unite. Through financial responsibility, educational opportunity, and shared experience, we build a legacy of wisdom, resilience, and genuine success. The wind rustled gently across the deck. The sea, ever steady, crashed below us. Sloane wiped her eyes. It's perfect. Then it's official, Jeremy said. The mission statement is approved. We clinked mugs of coffee instead of champagne. More grounded, more real. Through the glass doors, I saw my mother setting out dessert. My father adjusting the cushions. Sloane and Bryce talking quietly in the corner. Elliot turned to me. Think they'll be okay? Maybe, I said. But for the first time, I'm okay. The sun broke through the clouds, casting light across the deck. Warm, solid, true. Because sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't about taking someone down. Sometimes it's rising so high they can't even reach the version of you they tried to destroy.